How to deal with parental alienation. So before we can answer that question, we need to first look at what parental alienation is. We need to understand the terminology, what it means, and what the reality of parental alienation actually looks like. So parental alienation is a process where one parent uses psychological manipulation and physical effort. I have added physical effort to this because it's something that doesn't tend to get talked about, but they use those two means, psychology and physical, to remove a child or children from the other parent's lives. The methods an alienating parent uses to ensure alienation can be many. There are lots of different things. I've got some bits and pieces I've wrote down here just to sort of give a brief overview of it. So there's constant bad mouthing, where the one parent, the alienating parent, will talk badly of the other parent to reinforce the belief in the child's mind that that other parent is not deemed worthy of remaining in their lives for one reason or another. There's lies, of course, relentless amounts of lies about the targeted parent, the alienated parent, to again encourage the children to believe that they shouldn't be in that other parent's life. Blaming. So whether it's blaming the end of the relationship on the alienated parent, whether it's blaming things that happened in the relationship, i.e. that other parent was abusive, controlling, etc. All these sorts of tactics are used to ensure that the other parent is essentially forced out of their children's life. Other methods used, such as restricting access, where the alienating parent will block the other parent off the child's phone, for example, so they can't send texts, they can't communicate, they can't take phone calls, they can't receive them either. Computers, they'll cut and restrict access to computers so that the child again can't meet up with their other parent online in some sort of a game, for example, or send messages via that way. They will take the children out of the city or into hidden addresses to keep the children completely and permanently isolated from the targeted parent. And they claim fear. So an alienating parent can encourage the children to believe that they're in fear. In my case, for example, my children's mother said in official children's services statement, which was sent to the court, that her and our children, and these are her exact words and exact quote, were in imminent danger from me. I responded at the time, the only thing in imminent danger from me was a cup of coffee. But these are the sorts of things that are said. So that's just a brief overview of what alienation is. It's when methods, physical methods, psychological methods, lies, etc. are used to ensure that the children not only don't want to see the other parent again, but also cannot see that other parent again. So beyond the damage that this does to the targeted parent, this also damages the children. They live in a constant state of fear of the parent that in 9 out of 10 times is the one that loves them. They live with hostility, feeling hostility towards that parent. So if that parent does attempt to reach out, the child is likely to send back quite a nasty message if they can receive that message in the first place. And they feel a complete lack of guilt towards the targeted parent, towards the parent that is fighting and giving their all to back in their child's life. And it's an absolutely vile situation for both the parent, the children, and also the extended family members, etc., brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, and definitely nans and granddads to be tied up within. Parental alienation doesn't exist within UK family law. So what does that mean? Alienation isn't recognised within UK family law. Well, it means precisely that. It's a concept that, according to the UK family law system, doesn't exist. Therefore, there's no infrastructure for it. There's no legal framework surrounding it. And therefore, if you go into a family law case and tell the judge that you are an alienated parent, you have no grounds. You have no leg to stand on. You don't have a case. It's not a recognised term in court. It's in fact a term that judges look down on, that they frown upon. They'll take a negative view of you if you go into court and simply say, I am an alienated parent. But it's not just you that will be ignored in family law. You can go into the family law system with the solicitor, and you'll find out pretty early on in private meetings with your own solicitor that they are not prepared to take on that case of parental alienation. The framework, as I said, doesn't recognise it, and the family law system is bound by the terms of the Children's Act 1989. Now, it doesn't matter if it's the judge in your case, if it's a social worker, if it's a school teacher, for example, whoever you speak to that works under the umbrella of the family law system, your own solicitor, your own barrister, they all have to work within the framework of the Children's Act 1989. Therefore, none of them can promote the term parental alienation, none of them can protect you or can back you up on that, and none of them can take that into court for you to show the judge exactly what's really happened in your case. So from day one, you're on the back foot as an alienated parent. So what can you do about parental alienation? What is possible within this system? Well, this is just my own opinion, of course. This is how I've approached my case over the years, and this won't work for everybody. I can't say it genuinely worked for me, but this is the approach I chose to take. So in my own opinion, the first thing you should do as an alienated parent is try to work with the alienating parent. Now, I know in probably 90+% of alienating cases that is not possible, but believe me, there are good reasons why I say this. So first thing to do is to be nice to that parent. It doesn't matter what they've put you through, what pain you've gone through, the anger, the bitterness that you feel. You need to try to be positive about the situation, put a brave face on, keep the communication with them as much as you possibly can, to maybe text message, to voice recording, voicemail, saving voice notes, anything that you can keep a backup copy of, because you're most likely going to be needing that and referring to it for what's likely to come next. But talk to them nice, be polite, and keep copies of the conversations and try to work with that parent. You can make your own private child arrangements with that parent. You can either try and stick with them, and if that works, hope that that holds out. It might not do. The next step you can take, if that other parent is in agreement, is to apply for what's called, let me get this right again, a joint custody arrangement, which is known as a consent order. So when you make arrangements privately with the other parent, you can then take that to court. A judge will sign that and make it a legally binding document. That's called a consent order. Of course, there's nothing to back that up if the other parent decides to breach it. But then the other thing, the reason that I say this is because you do not want to end up in the family court system. So I recommend bend over backwards, put your head up your own arse if you have to, and whatever that other parent says, what their terms are, if they're offering you any time with your children, any sort of arrangements, grab it with both hands. Even if it's only every weekend, if it's 3 evenings a week, for example, on their terms, if it has to be, if you can't make arrangements but they give you some sort of an offer, grab that with both hands, because you do not want to end up in the family law courts. And ways that you can keep that going, that you can sort of appease the other parent, the alienating parent. You can offer for third-party handovers if that keeps them happy, so they don't have to come face to face with you. It can be done through their friend, through a family member, somebody mutual. You can offer to cover all the costs, so you're the one that's doing the travelling to where they are. You're having to pay the petrol fees, etc. And you can offer to see them on the timetable that she offers you. If you can't make an agreement between the two of you that works for both of you, then do it on her terms if you have to, because as I've just said, you don't want to end up in the family court system. That is the last place you want to be. You want to avoid that at all costs, and if that means bending over and taking it, if that makes sense, then you have to do that. You have to do it for your children, because this is still a better option than going into the family law system, especially if you're a father. What to do when none of that works? So, as most alienated parents will tell you, in probably 90-95% plus of cases, you are not going to be able to work with the alienating parent. They are going to block you, cut all access to your children, go into hiding, and essentially, without taking the next step, which is legal support, you simply are not going to see your children again, and they know this. So this is possibly one of the most difficult scenarios. This is where you've got to keep yourself mentally strong, where you've got to not react to the situation that they've forced you into. If, for example, you turn up at your children's school and remove them, from the alienating parent's care, legally, specifically if you're a man, you'll be looked on, in a legal sense, it is genuinely kidnapping, and the children will be removed back to the other parent. That is something that will later come up against you in family court, that you can't be trusted to follow orders, etc., because you're likely to run off with the children. That will legally be used against you. So the last thing you want to do is to give any sort of reasoning going forwards that can be used against you. So don't take the children from school, don't pick them up, stay away from where the alienating parent lives, i.e. don't go banging on the door, don't go parking up outside asking to see your children, because all of that will be used against you. Other things beyond that, you've got to hope, especially as a man, that you have no criminal record. I'm very lucky, I have none, because I've seen it in many cases where criminal records history, even if it's a 10-year-old thing, where a father had a rage of anger and lashed out at somebody or something like that, that will all come back to haunt you. It's all weapons that will be used against you. And let's be honest, most of us won't know of the family law system. I certainly didn't, or should I name it the family law industry, because it's an industry more so than a system. It operates under the guise of a system, but it's an industry, a business, it's a money-making machine. So we go into it completely blind, and this is where, if we don't have the support of family, friends and people that have already been through the family law system or have some sort of experience of it, we are essentially walking into hell. And this is where the first thing we will do, because we see it advertised if you start looking it up, is go for a free legal session to get some advice with a family law solicitor. This is essentially, in my own opinion, the trap. This is how the system operates. A brief overview of what is the family law system and how it operates. So, as explained, for most parents going into this system, they will have no prior history, no understanding of what they're walking into. They will be going in with hope, with belief, with confidence that they will be getting back to their children, that things are going to be good again, that arrangements are going to be made, that the other parent can't keep them alienated, and so on. And let me tell you, that isn't the fairy tale story isn't what you're walking into. What you believe for 95% of us isn't going to be the case at all. So the first thing that will happen, you'll have that free half-an-hour advice session with your family law solicitor, and he or she will say, okay, let's write a letter to the other parent, £140, £150 please. They will send a letter off to the alienating parent. That parent may reply, may not reply. Either way, it won't lead anywhere. Child arrangements won't be sorted in that moment. You will pay that money, the money will be gone, lost into the system, and the next thing you'll know, that solicitor will then be contacting you to say, okay, we need to apply into the family law system, and first of all we need to do what's called mediation. So mediation is a requirement of the family law system. So to get into the family law system, Google it, just Google C100 application form. That's a form that gives you the options to apply for different family law proceedings. The one that you will be applying for when you are first become an alienated parent is called the Child Arrangements Order. So you'll tick that box on the front of the form. You'll then start to tick other boxes, and you'll find a page on there at the very beginning of the form about mediation. So before you can apply to court, before you can step foot in for your first case, you've got to appear at a family mediation centre and complete a mediation course. In my case, this is where my solicitor tried heavily to completely financially screw me. He quoted £815 in total with VAT for costs to come with me and support me through the mediation process. I didn't want to pay £815. I'd already just seen him fail with no response, well, a response coming back from my partner to the letter that we'd sent out, but my partner's response was, sorry, give me 5 or 6 days, I'll get back to you, and she went into hiding and never to be heard of again. So solicitors are completely powerless. Therefore, on the back of that, I would advise that you go to mediation on your own, that you self-represent as it becomes known within the family law system or the legal system, and that you save yourself an absolute fortune. I paid £70, my costs would have gone up to £120 had my partner arrived. But mediation, where you have a mediation person in the middle of you and your partner, whether that's sat across the table, whether it's in different rooms, I don't know, I haven't actually seen the process play out. But that's a process where child arrangements are hopefully going to be sought to keep your case out of the family law system. However, upon that not being successful, you then head into the family courts. So you've filled in your C100 application. The next thing that will happen, as in my case, as in probably the case of 90-95% plus of fathers, is you're going to get a knock at the door one day. There'll be a man standing there with a file, a piece of paper in his hand. He'll hand it over to you. He will be serving you notification that you've been summoned to court to answer in what is known as a non-molestation order. A non-molestation order is part of the family law system, and it's where the other parent will then suddenly claim to the family law system that you are a threat, you are a danger, that you're abusive to them, and they want a restraining order against you. People. I'm being harassed by the dog walkers again. It's a common theme of this channel. Where was I? Completely forget now. Let me just get my bearings again. Of course, the non-molestation hearing. The reason for the non-molestation hearing isn't as simple as it'll appear at first. You'll have accusations laid against you that you'll have to go to court to contest, to fight against. There'll be accusations that you were abusive, controlling, that you're a danger to them still, even after the relationship's ended, that her and the children are all in danger of you, and so on. And the real reason for this won't be clear to you to begin with, maybe not even, until several months afterwards, once you're going into your own C100 child arrangements order yourself. But the real reason for this is because by claiming that you're abusive, women get legal aid. That legal aid covers their court costs for your case. It gives them a free legal aid solicitor. They don't have to pay anything. The solicitor that she'll be working with will have already advised her to make these accusations against you in response to you taking her to court for a child arrangements order. And this is standard procedure. I don't care what anybody tells you, what anybody out there says. This is my situation, this is real, and so this is what I'm advising and warning alienated parents, or fathers specifically, against. Because you will be dragged into that courtroom, and it'll be different in every situation. My situation, the case was dropped against me in the waiting area. We didn't even get into the courtroom, and I'll move on and talk about that in a future episode. But for this one, I just want you to understand that the minute that you apply to take your ex-partner, the female, the mum, to court to see your children again after she's alienated them from you, she will be told to claim a non-molestation stroke restraining order against you. It will help her to keep the children further away from you. She'll try and prevent you from going to the schools, from going anywhere near where she lives, from going anywhere near where she works. And unless you defend that, if you contest that and win that, that's great, and you've got to do it. It is vital that you do that. Because you'll be going next into your own child arrangements order, and the last thing you want against you or on you is that you are potentially a threat to your children. So you have to contest these orders. But as I said, the real reason that she'll take this order out isn't to prove that you're dangerous and abusive. That's a bonus for her if she can achieve that. It's for her to be able to obtain legal aid, and the reason her solicitor will first tell her to do that is so that the solicitor gets paid where mums can't afford to. It's all to do with getting money into the system, and it's taxpayer funded, and that taxpayer money that's supposed to be used through women's aid, for legal aid, women's aid, is meant to be going to real victims of domestic abuse, but instead, probably the majority of it, I don't know, is being squandered on women that simply want to keep the children alienated from their dad. So you've completed a non-molestation case, and you now move on into the first hearing. It's known as an FHDRA. It means First Hearing Dispute Resolution Appointment, and what that essentially is probably just a 20-minute, half an hour moment in court where you're probably going to be sat in the waiting room for multiple hours, worrying, concerned, scared to death, dependent upon your situation and how you personally cope with it. But you'll go in, it'll be dealt within, as I said, 20-30 minutes, and it's just a hearing where both parents can sort of put the case forward, and for the judge to get a good idea of where you're at. Of course, you've both explained your own sides in your application to court. In the other parent's response, then she'll have also explained her situation. So you both sit there before a judge, say what's happened, and then he'll book a following hearing or a second hearing. Now that second hearing will be used by the judge, by the court, as an attempt to get both parents again to work together. If you're in any sort of situation like I was, that will not happen. It's impossible, and therefore you'll go on to a third hearing. Third hearing they will attempt usually to try and make that a final hearing, where a court will make the decisions for you based upon evidence given by CAFCAS and the local authorities. In my case, Birmingham Children's Services, as they were known then. They changed their name to Birmingham Children's Trust. Why they feel they need to put trust in there, make your own minds up on that. But Birmingham Children's Trust and CAFCAS are completely corrupted to the core. They are part of the system. They work for the system. They paint a narrative that fits what the system's objective is, which is to keep you, your partner and the children tied up within the family law system until the children are 16, if possible. That's what they aim for. So in my situation, in terms of the time process that this took, I applied to the courts at the end of September. This was 2017. The first final hearing was booked for the 15th of January. We got there and it was thrown out because the courts and CAFCAS, etc. just weren't ready, and it was put back to the 25th of March. Throughout that time, and from the 17th of December, I've been seeing my children weekly. I think it was weekly, it could have been fortnightly, at a contact centre, paid for, and it's the people behind the family law system that are earning through that. So I'd see them anyway. At least I got that contact back, got to establish some sort of a relationship with them, albeit in a small room with young children's toys. It wasn't really brilliant, but it was something. So we got onto the 25th of March 2018 now. That was the final hearing. I won the hearing, I got the contact back, got a contact order. I could then start seeing my children away from the contact centre. So for me, end of September till the end of March, April, May, June, July, whatever that is. My brain's not working at the moment, so I started just adding up then from March. Yeah, so September, end of September till the end of March is the time period that my first case took. Since the whole COVID situation, I believe that the average court case now is around 12 months from start to finish, which is absolutely horrendous, especially while you're alienated from your children for month after month, waiting for the courts. Just essentially, they just leave you sat there. There's not much you can do about that. You just have to somehow manage to survive the process. So let's just say now, and I'll use my case as a bit of a reference point, that you're 10 weeks later. You've been having weekly contact with your children, you've been having them for the weekends, spending daytime with them, taking them out places, you may be having a sleepover, and it's going brilliantly. You know, you've got your father in or your mother in roll back into your life, and it feels great. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you're alienated again. You get a message from the other parent. Due to recent events, I am cancelling the contact. Please, I will see you in court. That's it. You're told to take her back to court again. And so you were going to find yourself heading back to court for another round of court hearings, again alienated from your children, knowing this time what's to come, knowing that you're looking at months and months and you will apply for another you'll apply for an enforcement order to start with. That's what you'll apply for. You will now be scared to death because you've been through this system. You know how the judges operate, you know how biased it is, especially if you're a dad against yourself. So I can only talk from my own experience on this. You'll be scared to death. So you'll apply for what's called an enforcement order. Now, an enforcement order is an order that's supposed to be imposed upon a parent that has breached the order. So you'll go into court again for another hearing. You'll get the chance to put forward your evidence for how they've breached the order. You'll tell them exactly what's happened. The other parent is given an opportunity to defend their actions. They will come up with a load of waffle that whatever they want to say, that you're abusive or you didn't return the children on time or something like that, whatever they can say. They can't prove it because, in my case anyway, specifically, it didn't happen. But either way, you'll find yourself applying for an enforcement order. Now, that enforcement order, you won't win. You will not win an enforcement order. It's part of the process again. You'll work with your own solicitor and barrister, as I did, and you'll end up coming back out of that court 6 months, 8 months, 12 months later with another child arrangements order, the same that you had, that I'd achieved in the 25th of that March 2018. You'll be walking out in the same place that you started off in. What's the point? You know by this time that the court system then isn't worth, the court orders aren't worth the paper they're written upon, because she can just end the order any given moment without having to give a particular reason. There'll be no punishment laid upon her for it because they won't allow the enforcement order to take, to be, what's the word for it, to be applied. Therefore, you're back where you started. Therefore, give it a couple of months, give it a few weeks, whatever, you're going to be alienated again. So you get the picture. I think you're starting to understand how the system works now. You get alienated again, you again apply for an enforcement order. You're stronger now, you fully understand how the process works even more. You go in, you've got all the evidence in the world, but that evidence isn't allowed into the courtroom. And you come back out with a new arrangement plan. Rewritten, probably a few things included in there that are trying to put her off alienating you again. But there's no punishment. There's no justice for a parent continually alienating you from your children. And so this can run on for years, and the family law courts will aim to keep you in the system until the children are 16. So if you've got a toddler or a baby, God help you, because until they're at least 12 or around age 12, they are definitely 100% tied up within the system. There is no way out of it. Not if the other parent won't work with you. So how do you survive this? How do you cope? So the video title is how to deal with parental alienation, and there isn't a straightforward answer. In every case it's going to be completely different. Every parent is going to feel the emotions differently, is going to struggle differently. Some parents are more connected with the children than others. And so for all sorts of reasons, different family relationships, people in the background that can help and support you. And all I can say, the only advice I can give to dealing with parental alienation is to keep the ones that are around you close. Is to stay close to your parents. If you've got parents, I'm lucky, I'm very, very lucky that I've got my parents, because I wouldn't be here without them. And so I'm lucky to be in a situation now where I can sit here on this bench overlooking this view and be able to give advice out, because I shouldn't be here. There's no way I should be here. I shouldn't have survived this. Trying not to go, I've got the tears coming out now and I get all red-eyed. So yeah, I'm very lucky. And if you've got family around you, friends, work colleagues, anybody who's supportive, keep them super, super close, because you are going to need them. You are going to need them, because the places that this system will drag you down to, that your ex-partner will drag you to, not all of us come back from them places. I've been close, but it was always the vision of my children that kept me going. I couldn't see them, waking up one morning to the news I was no longer here. I couldn't allow that to happen. So my advice, and it's the only advice I can give, is keep those around you close. Take all the support that you can get. Keep yourself busy, get yourself a hobby, go out with your friends, keep yourself busy at work. Do whatever you can to keep your mind occupied, because this isn't an easy ride. And if you're anything like me, it's going to take you at least 2 to 3 years to find that sort of inner strength to prevent yourself from completely breaking down each time. But all along the way, you're going to break. There's going to be moments after contact when I used to drop my children back to the mum. You know, I'd see my little boy going off in his granddad's car to be took back to mum. These moments, they're testing. And you're not going to find anything in life that's going to test you and push you. You know, this is where you're going to find out how much of a parent you are, if you know what I mean, how strong you are, what you know, what you can and can't do, what you can survive for your children, what you can survive for those around you who love you, who need to see you back with your children as well, because you're doing it for them too. You know, you're not just doing this for yourself, you're not just doing it for your children, you're trying to bring everybody back together. So I don't know what else I can say, if you know what I mean, other than that in terms of advice. There's not really anything else. You've just got to keep those that you love around you, and you just got to keep getting up every day and keep moving forwards. Anyway, I hope this has helped. That's the whole idea of this little video I've just done now, is to just try and put something out there to just give people a bit of an idea of how this system works, how to potentially survive alienation, what the process is, what the family law system is, you know, and what to expect. But of course, reach out in the messages below, ask me anything. There's nothing I won't say, there's nothing I won't answer. I got no skeletons in my closet. You can ask me anything about my situation and how I've got through it, how I've survived, how I've struggled. Just ask me below. And again, please like, please subscribe. The subscriptions for this is what I've absolutely massively needed to be able to keep me going. I'm planning on doing this for years to come. This isn't just a short thing. I want to keep this going as long as possible. For as long as YouTube exists, hopefully I'll be there, you know, still putting out the videos, because this is a lifelong passion of mine. This isn't something that I can just walk away from. One day I can't move on. It's not another chapter. This is a big part of who I am now, and I still need to get back to my daughter, and I still need to see my parents reunited with that. I still need to see her reunited with the brothers. So I'm going to be around for a lot longer yet. Cheers for watching. I'd also just quickly like to say that all the advice, support, etc. I'm giving here, there's no legal advice in this. I'm not legally entitled to be able to give out any family court guidance, etc. Take it with a pinch of salt. I can give out real life guidance, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.